The following is an America Matters media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
This is not America. Sha-la-la-la-la. Little piece of you.
And welcome to Talking Truth to Power, Nevada's Freedom Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor, and I'm here with my co-host, Leland Faegre. And we have Shanimal not on the board, but behind the board.
Yeah, please hold your horses.
That's right.
Yes.
And we're in the corral here.
Shanimal rescued a wild horse that was stuck in barbed wire today.
And a whole bunch of wild horses came up to the road today on my way up here to the studio.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Very nice.
All right, let's give him a hand. Yes,
Yeah.
He deserves it.
So I guess we're not going to have a residual presence in Afghanistan after all.
I guess not. I mean, the latest thing is, and Biden deserves some credit for this. I don't care what the right says. According to what I've heard, Miley thought that he could override Trump's withdrawal and wanted Biden to, or Milley, I don't know how you pronounce his name.
I think it's Milley.
Yeah, and told Biden that we should leave 4,000 troops there, and Biden refused. So, I mean, he deserves some credit for pulling out, just not for the execution.
Well, but the execution was contingent on how they behaved. That was the whole deal. So when they started overrunning the provinces, that was a pretty clear flag that, things weren't going as planned.
Right.
And he went through with it anyway.
Right. Well, there's a lot.
Because you know why? You know what season this is?
No.
Most people think it's summer. Turns out it's fighting season. It's fighting season in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't fight in the winter.
No.
That's pretty common.
They lay down their arms in the winter. Watch football.
They play that with shrunken heads, don't they?
I think so.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. That's what I've heard.
But, that still doesn't, I don't think that still changes the fact that the withdrawal was set by Trump. Biden should have tried to pull out by May 31st. Then probably for political reasons, he said September 11th and, wanted to make some kind of psyop about it. I don't know what that reasoning was. But then they took over. I mean, it's their country. They took over.
But the point is that this is what globalism looks like.
Oh, yeah.
We're leaving behind, but what was the number I just saw this morning? 4,400 Americans is the number of those who got out so far. 4,400.
Yeah.
They're bragging about 80,000 people they've gotten out of there.
And only
4,400 are ours.
Yeah, I mean.
So this is what globalism looks like.
Yeah,
They don't care about the United States of America. This is the legacy of Joe Biden.
Whatever, I'll do what I want.
And we should recognize it for what it is.
Yeah.
That's who he
salutes
to.
He was a stop clock that was right, once. I mean, if you go back over his political history, he's been wrong about just about everything. Yeah.
And remember John McCain's, he was on the floor of the Senate complaining about who is now our Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. Mm-hmm. Saying he wasn't qualified for the diplomatic
none of them
post.
are qualified. This is remember in this, I think it was the second debate when Biden muttered under his breath to Trump that Trump was the most incompetent president ever.
Mm-hmm. He can't get away with that anymore.
No. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect all over again. It's the most incompetent people think they're the most competent.
But remember the display of the late John McCain going after Blinken. Mm-hmm. Is really an interesting encounter because they are both members of the Council on Foreign Relations.
Right.
So within that club, and it's a big club, and we're not in it, are these factions.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Both statist and, there were the likes of Newt Gingrich were in there and a handful of so-called right-wing types were in there as well. But they're all there understanding that the organization, which has been there for 100 years writing domestic and foreign policy for the United States, are committed to world government. They're committed to globalism. They're not committed to the United States of America.
No, I never said they were.
No, I never said you did.
No.
My point is that that's why we're witnessing what we're seeing under this administration.
Well,
whether it's the open borders or the fiasco which is now Afghanistan.
Right. It's not America first. That's for sure.
We had to get those troops out of there. They should have never set up camp in the first place.
Right.
But it's how they've taken them out
Well,
and who we're leaving behind.
not only that, but the lies, the outright lies for 20 years about what we were doing there and what we were accomplishing. You know, I mean, we had nothing there. And they kept saying that 300,000 troops. Remember, Biden kept saying that? How many of them were ghost troops?
Right. We're in his head.
Yeah, we were paying for 300,000 troops.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they were there.
We might need them yet.
And then, I'm hearing from Afghan vets that these Afghan troops that we had, they were illiterate. They couldn't even count. They were there for 13 years and they couldn't even requisition supplies from the U.S.
Well, not only, I think the number is 1 out of 10 could actually write their own name and count.
Right. And are these the people we're going to rescue and resettle in America?
Yeah, I'm sure they are. Yeah, they have to be educated first. They can't
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
They can't fill out their own forms.
No. They're going to have diversity counselors at the immigration offices to help them write out the forms.
So the geniuses that set up this occupation and this nation-building strategy are the ones we are really targeting here.
Yes.
Who were these people?
Exactly. And why aren't they falling on their sword? I mean, generals used to have honor.
Yeah.
They don't have any honor anymore.
That's exactly right.
It's all about the next job in the military-industrial complex.
And they didn't pay for it.
No, they didn't pay for it.
We did.
Yeah, that's the quote I have up here. It is easy to be conspicuously compassionate if others are being forced to pay the cost.
Sure. Yeah,
Mary
it's
Rothbard.
a great one. Yeah, that's Rothbard, yeah.
Yeah. So...
So here we are for another week.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor. I'm here with Leland Faegre, and we were discussing what's going on in Afghanistan. Now, we're hearing a lot of stories coming out of Afghanistan, and it's hard to tell what is true because there is a very big propaganda, machine out there, and who knows what's really going on with any certainty. I've heard some good things about the Taliban, but, not that bad. There are pictures I saw of women supposedly walking to school in Kabul, and I heard the Taliban has outlawed blood feuds, which that's a big part of Pashtun life.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Taliban is Pashtun.
That's their propaganda order.
Yeah. They've outlawed the practice of bakabazi. The warlords who conscript
for opium?
young boys to be sex
homosexuals.
slaves.
Yeah.
And but there are reports they may be conscripting young women to marry Taliban males. Mm-hmm. But in the middle, that's why I'm against.
But again, we're hearing it. We don't know.
We don't know. And the Middle East culture is all about arranged marriages. That's one of the things that distinguish Western civilization from the Middle East is, a marriage for love and not for arrangement. Now, the fact is the Taliban did make money off opium, but most experts that I've seen agree that the opium was actually produced by the U.S.-backed warlords, and the Taliban would mostly put a tax on the production of the opium.
Well, that's why we needed to occupy the country for 20 years.
So the CIA
guard
could
the
have their supply of opium guaranteed. And so again, we're going to have to wait a while to sort this out. Now, what I'm told the Taliban wants to do is create a Islamic version of the Afghanistan 1964 Constitution. Now, I didn't know they had a Constitution in 1964.
Who knew they had a central bank?
Yeah. But that was a constitutional monarchy. But instead of a king, there would be a supreme leader, like in Iran, a religious figure, probably.
Figurative?
But, yeah. Well, the supreme leader has some power because he can decide who appears on the election for president.
So he can make direction.
Yeah, he can give it direction, but occasionally somebody gets in who he doesn't like. He didn't like Rouhani. I know that, and Rouhani got elected. So
right, that's what we're hearing.
Yeah.
But this Baradin guy, this is the Taliban leader.
Yeah.
The CIA. Head, I can't think of his name off the top of my head anymore, met
Burns?
with yesterday.
I think it's Burns.
Yeah, Burns.
Yeah.
I keep thinking Arthur Burns when I hear that, but
right.
It's not Arthur Burns. But yeah, they met in Kabul yesterday.
Yeah, that's what they say. Yeah.
I wonder where that was. Where did that take place?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you have loved to have been a
fly on the wall?
A fly on that wall.
Yeah, I know.
We choose truth over facts.
So Hamid Karzai, remember him?
Karzai,
he's supposedly going to have a role here to try to give some legitimacy to them while they try and patch together this new government, which is going to take a while, and it's probably a year, maybe 2 years to put together a government.
Gosh, I sure hope they get it done.
Yeah. So there would be two houses, one sort of like a House of Commons and another sort of like a House of Lords.
So a parliamentary system.
Sort of, yeah. But I don't think they probably would not be able to remove the president like in another parliamentary system. I don't know, though. We don't know yet. And then and there would be an Islamic council to make sure all the laws complied with Islamic law. And there are some differences, I'm told, between Islamic law and Sharia law or Pashtun tribal law, and that Islamic law is somewhat better. And we'll see.
So who gets to control those 110 Black Hawk helicopters?
I'm sure they'll sell it to somebody. I mean, I bet you the Chinese and the Russians are already looking at it or trying to get a hold of it. Right now, they're joyriding in them, Did you see that?
I did.
Yeah.
And in our uniforms.
And that Iwo Jima meme?
Yeah. But that's probably us. That came out of Langley.
But, so they won. I mean, they're beating their chests. They're yelling death to America, but I understand in that culture they yell death to the traffic jam if they're upset by the traffic. I mean, I don't know how valid all this being right-wingers being upset by people thousands of miles away chanting death to America is really, They should have freedom of speech, too.
Let's see how they feel about us after the 31st.
Yeah.
Shouldn't happen this way.
No, it shouldn't have.
It just didn't need to happen this way.
No.
So there has to be intent here. And the intent has to make it amenable to those who are seeking regional political harmony from their perspective, globalist perspective.
Uh-huh.
You've got Iran next door,
Right.
Pakistan behind them. You know, that sort of thing. You know, they've all got to be part of the team, on board with the team.
Iran has got to be on board with the
They're
team?
on board with the team. Yeah.
You know the thing.
The industrial military complex needs Iran.
Well, they need an enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it
exactly.
is.
Yeah. I mean, so that's all made up? Iran is not
It's a
really
construct.
Iranian?
It's a construct.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like gender?
Yep. In some cases.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that Iran being our enemy is just a social construct. I think they really are.
Well, remember,
in the eyes of the military-industrial complex, not in reality, because they can't really do any harm to us.
no, that's true.
Yeah.
But they can play into the hands and serve purposes in the region.
Okay, all right.
That's
yeah.
what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah, okay, I agree with that, sure. If we didn't have an enemy, we wouldn't need such a big military.
And if there aren't enemies, we have to create them.
Sure we do.
I mean, that's always been the case.
Yeah, I mean, what Julian Assange said.
It's all part of the plan.
There you go.
Julian Assange in 2011 said the goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the U.S. and Europe through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite.
It's the Cuba of the region.
This is endless war, not a successful war.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
that's a brilliant summation.
Right.
It seems to me an insurmountable amount of money.
And it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, are we drawing troops out of there now so we can redeploy them to another war?
They're looking for something.
Yep.
No question about it.
And Kamala is their spokesperson.
Yeah, exactly.
So she wants to challenge China with our woke Navy. Do you know how many accidents our Navy has gotten into in the last couple of years? But they all know about white rage and diversity.
They do now, yeah.
Yeah, but they can't keep out of their own way or out of the way of fishing vessels or things like that. I mean, it's a farce. It's a farce.
Well, the Americans are too busy, putting food on the table, and
Oh, yeah.
they aren't going to care that much.
And that's going to get harder because food prices are going to go up.
And you see, that cost Jimmy Carter his second term. And this is only worse than that in so many ways, because they're setting the stage for a new world order. So that's what this is really all about. Open borders to the south, a construct that allows them to deliver the nation states to the United Nations. That's what we're experiencing right now.
Well, it's the destruction of Western European civilization, European American civilization, and replacing it with this globalist vision.
Entanglement. Yeah.
Entanglements. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been talking about that, and but somehow it doesn't seem it's beginning to stick. I mean, if you get on Twitter, you would think the whole country understands it, but unfortunately they don't.
No, they don't.
No.
But that's not our fault.
No. We're doing our bit here. We're talking
part.
truth to power. Yeah. And, so Kamala was in Vietnam, and did you see she laid a wreath at the shrine to John McCain in Hanoi?
I did not see that.
They have a shrine there for some reason where his plane crashed. But, maybe that's another reason to invade Vietnam, just because they're honoring John McCain.
Well, they like to celebrate McCain once in a while because he was a good globalist.
Yeah.
And so
he may have been, according to some people, he was actually, a stooge for the Vietnamese. He
was a stooge as far as commitment to Afghanistan, that theater as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't want to leave.
No.
He thought it was a 100-year war. Remember that?
I do.
He called it a 100-year war. A couple of generations down the road, we can talk about withdrawal. Basically, that's what McCain's idea was.
Hey, all you entrepreneurs out there, whether you have a small business or work from home, LaRue Press offers a virtual office and business address for all your business needs.
Getting to know you.
Let me tell you about America Matters with Eddie Floyd. It comes on every Monday at noon. Don't want you to miss it. That's America Matters with Eddie Floyd.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now, back to the show.
Hey, welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor. My co-host is Leland Faegre. And you know, Dr. Fauci came out and said that if we're all good and take our vaccine, we might be able to go. We'll be able to go back to normal in the spring of 2022.
Right, I heard that.
Yeah, but you know, he's.
But he's wrong about everything.
Well, no, he's been right about everything. Remember, in 2009, he said the swine flu may hit as many as 1/3 of Americans. He was right about that.
Okay.
And then in 2014, he predicted that Ebola would come to America and kill many, and there was no way to stop it. He was right about that.
That was right, too.
Yeah. In 2020, he accurately predicted that millions would die from the coronavirus and hospitals would be overwhelmed. So everything played out exactly as he predicted.
We have to take care of the cure. That will make the problem worse no matter what.
Including his sponsorship of Gain of Function. That worked out pretty well, too.
He said there would be no need to wear masks because they didn't work. He was right again.
Yep. But then he reversed course on that.
And then it's his consistently accurate predictions on when the coronavirus pandemic would end.
Shut up.
Like in December of 2020, he predicted that everything would be back to normal by June. And then if we were diligently vaccinating people in December of 30th of 2020, he also predicted then that we would be returned to normal by early fall. So, I mean, he's been right every time. I don't know why people are getting upset about what he says. And then he also said we would not need a third shot of the vaccine.
I think he's one of the Americans we should leave behind in Afghanistan.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
The only way to stop the deadly virus is with a third shot of the vaccine. That's true.
Well, then
throughout his entire career, spanning decades, he's been right about just about everything. He must have a crystal ball. Or maybe he communes with spirits. No, Fauci follows the science.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot about that. Where's Thomas Dolby when you need him?
If you want the rest of society to be as well managed as the pandemic by Anthony Fauci, you need to find more people who can communicate with the science and tell us what it is all about. Maybe we should make Fauci the dictator of the world because he's always right about everything and he knows how to commune with the science.
Okay. Well, we can talk about that. I'd rather see him left behind in Afghanistan.
Do you want to play a game?
All right.
Among those people who plan for all contingencies, that crowd.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think we need to shift gears a little bit maybe and talk about Larry Elder. And did you know the Los Angeles Times said that Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy?
Yeah. You are forewarned.
Yes.
That's how they finished the quote. You are forewarned. Because I think that's all they got. They know he's going down.
Yeah.
And they're preparing for it. They've thrown everything they can at this recall and to Larry and the others that are in the race, and they won't be able to effectuate the decline of any of these candidates. They're all more popular than Gavin Newsom. He sold his house. He's out of Dodge. He's gone.
Yeah, I know.
But
maybe he'll move in with Nancy.
Well, the interesting development that I saw just yesterday, I think it was the Gateway Pundit, is that they've designed the ballots for the mail-in back, so that those who receive the ballots can see whether they voted to recall Newsom or not.
Okay. That sounds good.
So they can toss them.
Oh.
You're not supposed to be able to see from the outside.
From the outside of the envelope.
Yeah.
Oh.
So they know straight away when that comes into them whether that vote is a vote for recall or not. And makes it so there's your free and fair elections from the Dems. That's how they operate.
Well, I understand that there are missing ballots that probably all designed to be sent to Republicans.
And there was a traffic stop that revealed some guy with about 300 ballots in his car.
Yeah, I think that's probably what. Yeah,
that may have been what you heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, driving around with recall ballots in his car. So that's a corrupt machine in California.
Oh, everywhere the Democrats are, it's definitely a corrupt machine.
If Elder can't win and restore confidence in law and order in California, I think there's no way to save that state.
No.
The plan is to cede it to Mexico anyway. That's the long-range plan, to take every one of the states that were involved in the Mexican-American War and return it to Mexico. That's Reconquista.
Can they return the upper half to Russia?
I wish they could. I think, yeah. I think there should be a way we can do this. Let them have it.
Yeah, I know. I feel sorry for the people in San Diego because they're a little bit of a different breed down there.
Yeah, and it may not be a contiguous secession, but we need to be able to begin a process whereby we can secede from these developments, because nobody wants to be a part of this.
No.
Half the country has no interest whatsoever in the direction that these elites are taking us.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to have a way out.
Yeah.
And it's secession.
Mm-hmm.
And Lincoln be damned.
Yeah, some kind of secession or informal separation or something has got to be worked out.
Some way, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because, it's
those flyover municipalities and states that would be very much a part of this grand design if we were to organize it. And we are organizing it here on Talking Truth to Power. We've talked about this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, as technology progresses, and if it doesn't go totally totalitarian, maybe there can be a way to have virtual secession and have virtual polities, and not.
Well, that's a very interesting concept.
Not even physical
so it
polities.
wouldn't be geographic. Yeah,
yeah,
that's quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, some people are considering that. I mean, they're on the fringes right now, but
digital secession.
Yes.
Brendan, that is absolute genius.
Is it as genius as...
It's the writer in you.
Is it as genius as my idea to have COVID parties?
Well, I'm in there.
Yeah, you are. You're already immune that way.
That's right.
But, there's something to do with the vaccines. If people like you are forced to vaccinate, or even other people...
I just won't do that.
Yeah. There's going to be there's something called enhanced antibody syndrome or something like that,
right.
Whereby if you've already been vaccinated,
APS, I think it's called APS.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
If you've already been vaccinated, or if you're immune and you get vaccinated, you can confuse the antibodies in your system, and they overreact if the flu comes in, and they could make it worse. That could actually kill you through over-vaccination.
Healthcare systems are adopting that now.
Yeah.
Proof of vaccination or APS results.
Look at Australia. It's gone totally fascist.
Yes, it is.
And
wouldn't recognize it.
And Britain isn't far behind.
Yeah.
And
New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand too. Yeah. And they have very few cases, even cases, never mind deaths.
Yeah, I know. There's something like 300 in the whole country, and talk about an overreach.
I know, and they're arresting kids for going out at night to
can't
party.
Talk to your neighbors.
Yeah.
You have to laugh, because what else can you do?
I never would have thought that people would have gone so irrational.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I don't think they're going to be able to effectuate that outcome, but it's still the idea that they are even attempting it. Mm-hmm. Apparently, some guy some COVID-rich individual got into an elevator in one of the major cities in Australia, and that's what started this whole thing.
Wow.
They've got film of him getting on the elevator and sneezing on the elevator. So we can't have that.
No.
You know? The whole country must be shut down.
I know.
That's the mindset of the authoritarians.
But you could have COVID and think it's nothing but a sniffle. I've been sniffling a lot the last few days. Maybe I got COVID again. I think I'll go out and get a test kit or something and see if I've got it.
One of those APS tests.
Yeah. Western civilization, it must have been rotten before to have it collapse so thoroughly about all of this fear of COVID.
Well, all of this comes from the very highest levels of authority and wealth, because they want to control us. So they coordinate with their subordinates, and the next thing you know, it's in your neighborhood. They have control of the communications. It's not like in the old days where it was just a newspaper. It's electronic now as well, So it's easy to distribute propaganda, and most people are too busy to figure it out. They don't understand a dynamic that would seek to control them like that. They don't believe it's possible. And it's people like us trying to alert them to it. It's our job.
It is possible. It's happening, in fact.
And it has happened through history even without the ability to control the process of thought. I mean, before the printing machine, it was still possible, using standing armies or whatever.
Well, I think if they're going to be looking at Wuhan Lab, they also have to look at Fort Detrick. That's my opinion, because this is just too convenient for the power elites, what's going on.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
Sounds Jewish.
Hey, I guess it's time for another edition of Jews in the News here on Talking Truth to Power. And first we have to give the mandatory disclaimer that's required by the Anti-Defamation League. And so let's go. We acknowledge that Israel is America's greatest ally and the only democracy in the Middle East. Lebanon doesn't count. No, they're going to invade them anyway soon.
Yeah.
Okay. And they don't throw gay people off of roofs.
No, they don't.
No. And whenever we observe Jews behaving badly, we should remember each and every time it's always our fault. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about critical race theory, but from a little bit of a different perspective. Now, we've mentioned on the show the non-Zionist Jewish musician and writer Gilad Atzmon, and he wonders in a column on the Unz Review why the West calls critical race theory Marxist when it's really Jewish. Now, Marx came from a Jewish family.
Yeah, I was just going to say Marx was Jewish.
Yeah, he came from a Jewish family, but
so was Engels.
And so was Engels, yeah. But and Marxism fits into the Jewish revolutionary outsider paradigm. That they are always outside, they're never assimilated, and they're always revolutionary. They want to take down society and so on. But he was more concerned with economic class struggle, but not racial identity. the lower classes of all races should revolt against the capitalists. That was his idea. But it was Judaism, particularly Zionism, that elevated and changed it from a class struggle to biological determinism as a critical status of the Jewish question or of Zionism.
Of the influence of Zionism.
Right. Mm-hmm. Because as the chosen people, and particularly, I mean, they consider themselves the chosen people since 450 BC, but particularly since the late 19th century rise of Zionism, Jews have been called to identify with their biology. And what people don't realize, it was a couple of decades later, after Zionism was formed, that the Nazis actually followed the Jewish example. The Nazis simply substituted their mythical Aryan race as the master race instead of the Jewish chosen people idea. Mm-hmm. And you know, a lot of people don't realize this, but Zionists actually had a favored position in Hitler's Germany, that they were not persecuted like the other Jews were.
Elitism?
The Zionists. Elitism, yeah.
Imagine that.
In fact, it's a well-known fact that Adolf Eichmann visited Palestine. It was not Israel then, it was still Palestine, and talked to the Jewish fascist terrorists like the Irgun. And many of those people, I think David Ben-Gurion was originally a member of the Irgun, the founder of Israel. So, you know,
and we're not even talking about central banking yet.
No, we're not even talking about central banking. But, and the American right seems to, for the most part, go for or admire.
They're comfortable with it. Yeah.
The Jewish nationalist fascism.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But not the George Soros type internationalist fascism or socialism, which is kind of strange because
I think there are exceptions to that as well. But I think as a general rule.
As a general rule, mm-hmm. Yeah. But then Otzman writes about Jewish historian Henry Abramson. Now he is. You can see his lectures on YouTube if you're interested. He has quite a few lectures there on Jewish history. And he wrote in the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, you know, there's so many Jewish media that, you know, the Goyim never get to read and understand, but all right. Anyone teaching the past by skipping over the unpleasant parts isn't really teaching history. But, as Atzman points out, Jewish institutions are constantly policing this historical debate. Anybody who questions the primacy of Jewish suffering, you see, Jews have suffered more than any other people in the history of the race.
First and foremost.
And it's never their fault.
Nope.
It's always our fault.
Yep.
If the Jews did something bad, it's because we forced them to do it.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Exactly right. And so you can anybody that has a slightly unorthodox view of World War II is automatically a Holocaust denier, you know. Mm-hmm. And so, but Atzman writes that he did a Google search and he couldn't find a single thing by Abramson that talks about the Nakba laws that produced the 1948 ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians.
Couldn't find a single thing?
He didn't write about that at all.
Huh.
Even though anybody who teaches the past by skipping over the unpleasant parts is teaching history.
See where you're going there?
Yeah, and you see that Nakba, you know, was the cleansing. At least about 250,000 Palestinians were driven out of the homeland, and they're now the refugees. And hundreds or maybe thousands of Palestinians were actually killed to encourage them to leave. But you know, that's not such an unpleasant part.
Yeah, that's.
And then Abramson also gets into discussions on critical race theory. And
we can leave that out.
And he says anybody that's opposed to critical race theory is avoiding discussion over the controversial and painful moments in American history.
I think it's that we just don't want to revisit it again.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
But again, as Hatzman points out, those painful moments in American history contain no admission of the role of Jews in the black, not to mention the white, slave trades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
That
never comes up.
Nope. You have only the Nation of Islam was brave enough to do studies on the role of the Jews in the slave trades. And if Abramson is so worried about critical race theory and believes that we should pay black people reparations, maybe we could start paying the black people the U.S. foreign aid that we sent to Israel?
What an idea.
You think that would work?
That's a great idea. Probably go to better use.
Yeah, I wonder why Abramson didn't think about that.
He wants to leave that part out.
Yes. So Jewish institutions and individuals have been involved in saving the working class, universal civil rights, gay and women's liberation, and now transsexual rights. Yet instead of creating a just and whole society, somehow all of this advocacy for all these rights have left us with a whole bunch of conflicts that kind of resembles the 12 tribes of Israel. And
so it's inimical.
It's inimical, yes. It's sort of self-defeating.
Very interesting.
Yes. But it does kind of create, weaken the fabric of the main culture. All of these constant attacks and stirring up differences between individuals and groups in America weakens the dominant culture, which is the basically European white Christian culture, which they are most afraid of and most want to hurt. So maybe if America wants to fight racism for real, the real way is to seek human brotherhood instead of constantly going around glorifying victimhood.
Yeah. Well said.
If Jews really care for blacks, they should immediately embrace the Nation of Islam and encourage discussion of the Jews in the slave trade. If you want to have truth and reconciliation, you have to have the whole truth, right?
Talk about those things that we're not supposed to talk about?
Yes, exactly. And the Jews, believe that they are the light of nations. Did you know that?
I've heard that.
Yeah. There's that principle of tikkun, Tikkun, which is that when Yahweh created the universe, there were imperfections. So he created the Jews to go around fixing all the imperfections.
Huh.
Somehow there's a lot of work that's left undone. Right?
Who has more fun than we do here on Talking Truth to Power? I ask anybody.
So if you really want to be the light of nations, according to the non-Zionist Jews, you should stop, go for brotherhood, but if you really want to be the light of nations you claim, stop expecting the rest of humanity to bow incessantly to your sensitivities.
Very good.
I think that was a good way.
And I think what we're doing here on Talking Truth to Power is improving our throughput.
Yes. Tweak.
Is that a wrap, Shanimal?